It's true, our food might actually go extinct. This PB&J sandwich that's in my hand might totally disappear. But before I get to that, let me explain why this random thought just popped in my mind. Yesterday, I was hungry, so I made myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Then I had one of those existential crises that randomly explodes out of nowhere, and I thought, after I die, I wonder if people will have PB&J sandwiches far into the future. So I sat down, did some research, and here's what I found. This is my PB&J sandwich. Now this is what my PB&J sandwich looks like 100 years into the future. Okay, so I know it looks like my sandwich just disappeared, but it didn't. It actually stopped existing. What? It just stopped existing, which is what will happen to most of our food if A, we don't do anything about climate change, or B, we don't figure out ways to adapt if climate change becomes the norm. In this video, we're gonna find out why our food supply will vanish in the event that climate change goes on unchecked, and what we can possibly do to stop it. Let's get started. Most of the stuff we eat comes from plants, and most of those plants are suited to survive in current climate conditions. So the question becomes, what happens to our food sources when our climate gets hotter? Well, in all of this, something weird happens to the process of photosynthesis. You know photosynthesis, right? I think. Let me jog your memory. Photosynthesis happens inside the part of a plant cell called a chloroplast, which is located most abundantly in the leaf of a plant. It takes incoming light energy, carbon dioxide, and water, and converts it into a sugar called glucose, and a gas called oxygen, you know, the stuff that we breathe. This is why whenever we talk about fighting climate change, we're actually talking about decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. It's time to get a little more complicated. Now, part of photosynthesis is something called the Calvin cycle. And no, it's not when you put your dirty Calvin Klein underwear in the wash. The Calvin cycle is all about how chloroplasts in plants use carbon dioxide and turn it into glucose. This cycle uses a special enzyme to do that called rubisco. Normally, to do photosynthesis, rubisco will combine with carbon dioxide, which will then be converted into glucose. But when our environment becomes, Mad Max style hot and dry, plants will want to retain as much water as they can, so they don't end up looking like Deadpool without his mask off. I'd feel really bad if plants looked like that. So to prevent water loss, what they'll do is they'll close their pores on their leaves called stomata. And although it might seem good for the plant, it turns out that's pretty bad for us. You see, when plants close their holes, that came out wrong. When plants close their pores, they aren't able to take in the carbon dioxide, so they can't use it. So what's there to use instead? The stuff that we breathe, oxygen. When plants use oxygen instead of carbon dioxide to make sugar, that's called photorespiration. Having a hard time understanding this? Well, think of it like you're married to Kevin Hart. Not the most flattering thing, I know. In other words, you're married to someone with an anger issue, and when they get mad at you, they shut you out, get with someone else, and make a baby with them. Not my cleanest analogy. But the point is that rubisco is cheating on carbon dioxide and goes out with oxygen instead to make glucose. And while this might seem fine, it's really not. Not only because of the whole cheating thing, obviously, but it's because it's incredibly inefficient. You see, when rubisco uses oxygen, it makes 75% less glucose than if it were to use carbon dioxide. The only thing that has a bigger productivity drop is college students moving to online classes. Plants that perform these top 10 anime betrayals are called C3 plants. And guess which plants are C3 plants? Literally everything you eat. Okay, well, actually 85% of all plants, but also everything. Tomatoes, onions, potatoes, radishes, peanuts, grapes, and wheat. Rest in peace, PB&J sandwiches. So if you thought it was just your partner cheating on you, turns out your food is too. Luckily, we know of some plants that have evolved a different type of photosynthesis called C4 photosynthesis. It just so turns out that these plants survive much better in hot and dry conditions. Here's what happens in these plants. Instead of using carbon dioxide as it enters the stomata, aka leaf hole, the carbon dioxide gets pumped into these mesophyll cells, where it's converted into a storage form of carbon dioxide called malate. It then makes its way to a cell called a bundle sheath cell, where it becomes a usable form of carbon dioxide and is then used for photosynthesis. This way, the plant has an actual place for carbon dioxide reserves and doesn't use oxygen at any time for photosynthesis, which leads up to a 120 times increase in carbon dioxide availability. That's a lot. Okay? I'm sorry about that. That was dumb. So in hot and dry conditions, with not a lot of light or water access, C4 plants really thrive. That's kind of OP. Now here's the bad part. Finding C4 photosynthesis in a plant is like Trump being serious about the coronavirus. It's incredibly useful, but it just doesn't occur very often.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Moving on, C4 photosynthesis plants make up 0.4% of all plant species in the world. You heard me right, 0.4%. This list fortunately includes corn and sugarcane. So after climate change, do you really want to be eating like every yeehaw state does during state fair time for the rest of your life? Hi, can I get a corn on a stick with some powdered sugar coating? Let's do a side of corn sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and some diabetes. Thank you. Scientists all around the world are working to make this a reality, but no breakthrough papers have really come through. Now, a 2016 paper from the Institute of Plant Biochemistry in Doofenshmirtz, Germany. Wait, that can't be right. Doofenshmirtz. A 2016 paper from the Institute of Plant Biochemistry in Dusseldorf, Germany, to bring C4 photosynthesis into C3 plants has indicated that it can be possible. Scientists have this confidence because of three main reasons. Reason one, the main enzymes needed for C4 photosynthesis are already available in C3 plants. They're just off doing different things that they normally would do in C3 plants. Two, C3 plants already have some C4 characteristics. This includes mechanisms for moving carbon atoms back and forth through the stems of plants. And reason number three, C4 photosynthesis has evolved independently at least 66 times in at least 18 different plant families. But what does that mean exactly? Well, it means that for C4 plants to exist, their ancestors had to have been C3 plants. So if that evolution happened, now don't tell me you don't believe in evolution, then scientists have to figure out how that happened and then implement that in C3 plants. Look guys, I don't want my PB&J sandwich to disappear, especially Uncrustables. Those are really good. If those disappeared, I'd go on a rampage. Research in plant biology is going to be really important in the next 2 decades. You could be the person that solves food insecurity if climate change takes its toll. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. This has been Big Brain Time. Thank you so much for watching this latest episode of Big Brain Time. I really appreciate it. If you liked any part of this video, feel free to leave a like. Comment if you had any questions during the course of the video. If you want to follow any of my social media accounts to get Big Brain Time updates, you can check the links in the description or the tags are right down here. To subscribe, you can click right in the center, and any of my previous videos are up on the sides. This is really good. I don't know who doesn't want this. No more climate change. I need this. Imagine being allergic to jelly. I'm sorry.